Welcome to my views and news. Viewers, in this video, we'll try to analyze the fractured relations. Perhaps fractured is not the right word. Strained relations. Strained Ethiopia Eritrea relations. What is the reason behind this new coldness between Eritrea and Ethiopia? I wouldn't say that the two countries are going to cut off diplomatic ties, they're going to start a war. No. There is coldness between Eritrea and Ethiopia, but obviously there must be some reasons. There are some reasons behind this coldness. Both sides have some concerns. So we'll try to analyze Eritrean concerns. What are friction points according to Eritrea? Then Ethiopian concerns. And then we'll try to sum up. I think there are main 4 points of friction between the two countries, and friction is there. It's not something new. PM Abiy 2 days ago, when he spoke at the parliament, he evaded questions about Eritrea, about Red Sea Forum, about access to Red Sea. He deliberately avoided these questions. He did not say anything. Why? Because obviously something is wrong. He does not want to admit. Eritrean government totally silent. It is not saying anything about what is happening between the two countries. Last engagement that we saw between the two countries was the visit by a top Eritrean military delegation to Ethiopia a few months ago. That was a military delegation comprising some top military leaders from Eritrea, head of intelligence, and some other top generals visited Ethiopia back then. We did not see any other major engagements between the two countries. Isaias Afwerki can visit China, he can visit Russia. No talks with Ethiopian PM Abiy. He's been in Kenya too, he's been in Saudi Arabia too. Why is that there is no talk with the neighbor? PM Abiy visiting foreign countries too, but no talk with Isaias Afwerki. What is wrong? What are Eritrean concerns? Firstly, first major concern for Eritrea is that TDF is not dismantled. We talk to Eritreans close to the government. They say that Pretoria deal is not being implemented. Tigray fighters are still armed. Ethiopian government said in November that Pretoria deal would be implemented. Eritrea was hopeful that implementation would go according to the deal. But Tigray fighters are still armed. How true is this claim of Eritrean government? Yes, Tigray fighters are still armed. They're armed with small weapons. Tigray has only surrendered heavy weapons, Air Force weapons, group weapons, not small arms. Reintegration could not start. If there is no reintegration, it means that Tigray fighters are there in the form of units at some camps. They can be mobilized anytime. Reintegration could not begin for different reasons. One is lack of financial resources, main reason. And coupled with this concern is the concern about revival of TPLF. Pretoria deal gave life to TPLF. TPLF survived because it is clearly mentioned in the deal that TPLF would be reinstated. It was declared a terrorist party in 2021, but after Pretoria deal, it was removed from terrorist list. Apart from removal from this list, TPLF is now becoming a major ally of PP, Oromia PP especially. Eritrea is closely monitoring growing ties between Oromo leaders and Tigray leaders. So Eritrea was hoping to completely eliminate TPLF through its involvement, military intervention in Tigray. PM Abiy was fully on board with Eritrea back then, but now PM Abiy says that since Tigray has agreed to abandon its claim for secession, that is why now Tigrayans are equal citizens. It means that TPLF will have share in the government. It is not going to be completely neutralized, which was being hoped by Eritrean government. First major concern of Eritrean government is about TDF and TPLF. Second concern is about growing influence of the West and US in Ethiopia. In Eritrean neighborhood, in Tigray, in entire Ethiopia, gradually Western US influence is on the rise. Ethiopia is faced with an economic crisis. It is not in a position to go against Western American wishes. It is badly in need of a bailout package. It has been in talks with IMF and World Bank. It is hoping to get financial rescue from the West and US. And West and US want something in return. If Ethiopia gets a bailout from IMF and World Bank, in coming months, you would see penetration of Western companies in Ethiopia. Reportedly, PM Abiy's government has made some decisions paving the way for entry of Western companies in Ethiopia. I will do a separate video on this point. Eritrea, again concerned. Eritrea is at Chinese and Russian camps. It has always been against Western American expansion in this area. Now, right in Eritrean neighborhood, all the Western powers are trying to invest. So, do you think Eritrea would be happy with this? No, it will never be happy. Second major concern for Eritrean government is this growing influence, US Western influence in Ethiopia. There are other concerns too, but these are two main concerns. Yes, Eritreans are being deported from Ethiopia. Ethiopia says that these are not asylum seekers or refugees, but Ethiopian government officials say that the returnees were involved in, their status in Ethiopia was illegal. They were involved in illegal activities. So obviously, it's not a good message from Ethiopia to Eritrea. Ethiopia is saying that your citizens are involved in illegal activities in our country, so we are deporting them. So do you think it will be welcomed by Sahasavuk's government? But this is not a major concern. Two major concerns of Eritrean government I shared with you. Now, Ethiopian government. What are Ethiopian government's most important concerns due to which Ethiopia relations are strained, tense? Border. Eritrean military is still in control of territories on Tigray-Eritrea border. Eritrea has unilaterally enforced boundary commission decision which was given by a boundary commission 2 decades ago about demarcation of Tigray-Eritrea border. Back then the decision could not be implemented. EPRDF did not agree to implement the decision. Badme was granted to Eritrea in that decision, I think. Now Badme is under Eritrean control and other territories too. Some territories not granted to Eritrea by that boundary commission are still under Eritrean control. Eritrean military is not withdrawing. Ethiopian National Defense Force is there in border area. The two militaries have contacts too. They are in touch. Their communication channels are intact. Still, Tigray is saying that its territories are under the control of Eritrean military. Eritrea is silent. It has not said a word. We have seen statements from EU, US too. They are asking Eritrea to withdraw its military from Tigray territories. Ethiopian government is in a difficult position. It is neither supporting Tigray's position nor supporting Eritrean government's position. It is just watching silently. It is not in a position to tell Eritrea to withdraw its military from border areas. At the same time, Tigray is adamant that its territories must be vacated by Eritrean military. First concern for Ethiopia is the presence of Eritrean military in border areas. Secondly, we are seeing the start of a new anti-government resistance movement in Ethiopia. And center of this movement is the Amhara region of Ethiopia. Amhara region-based armed factions, Fano fighters, former Amhara Special Force members, some Ethiopian National Defense Force members, they have formed a joint front, though they are operating separately, independently, and they are challenging the Ethiopian National Defense Force. And we're going to see a long, protracted insurgency in the Amhara region of Ethiopia if there is no intervention to resolve this conflict through dialogue. Amhara hardliners have Eritrean backing. People in other countries from Amhara diaspora, like or who have links with Amhara diaspora, like Niamin Zalake, Andrga Chusege, they have long been in touch with Eritrean intelligence elements. Some were based in Eritrea in the past. And now, when this anti-government resistance movement in the Amhara region is gaining pace, Ethiopia is suspicious that Eritrea could be playing a role, though we have no material evidence, no convincing evidence that Eritrea is involved. But Ethiopian concerns are there that groups in the Amhara region of Ethiopia challenging the federal authority could be having Eritrean backing. Diaspora too. Diaspora is very closely in touch with Eritrean elements, and diaspora is playing a key role in putting pressure on Ethiopian government. It is trying to stop funding for Ethiopian government. It is contacting lawmakers in US, in Europe. It wants a boycott of Ethiopia by the world. And it is launching a campaign for stopping all remittances to Ethiopia. Diaspora and Ethiopian government had overwhelming support of diaspora in the 2-year-long war, excluding Tigrayan diaspora. Now this support is declining, it's diminishing. Rather, Amhara diaspora is renewing, it is strengthening ties with Eritreans, and Ethiopian government is feeling the pinch of this campaign launched by Amhara diaspora. Target of the campaign is to cripple Ethiopian economy. Two main concerns of the Ethiopian government are these two ones about the border and about the insurgency in the Amhara region. Apart from these concerns, some very important issues are unresolved. The two countries could not start any strategic partnership. The strategic partnership was only limited to the fight against TPLF, and they were fully in agreement when they were fighting against TPLF. Now TPLF has surrendered, Tigray fighters have surrendered, and now they have no other point of strategic partnership, no economic partnership, no common views on regional security, international relations, no plans for border monitoring, etc. Their one point agenda was that they should weaken or neutralize TPLF. It has not been completely achieved by Eritrea. There is no other point of cooperation. Key issues could be, they are already in the news, but in coming days we could see disagreements over these issues, access to Red Sea, port, Assab port, etc. So it means that Isaias Afwerki and PM Abiy renewed Ethiopia Eritrea ties in 2018. But that resumption of relations was limited to the fight against TPLF. Other points of cooperation could not be implemented. Now, when TPLF has been sidelined, there is need for a new engagement. Ethiopia and Eritrea, Isaias Afwerki and PM Abiy, they'll have to sit again. Again, they'll have to sit, and they'll have to agree on some new points of engagement. This new contact between Isaias Afwerki and Abiy is not happening. Rather, mistrust is on the rise. No common agenda. That is why relations strained. Uncertainty is looming over the future of Ethiopia-Eritrea relations. So what is needed is some sort of dialogue between the two governments, between the officials of two governments. Some committees can be formed. PM Abiy can visit Eritrea, Isaias Afwerki can visit Addis Ababa. The two should meet and they should hold talks, dialogue about what to do next. Now when TPLF is no more a major political player in Ethiopia. Will this new engagement between Ethiopia and Eritrea happen, or will this tension continue? That remains to be seen. I thank you for watching.